A Rooster Named Joe. I once had a rooster. I just called him Joe. The sun wouldn't rise if Joe didn't crow. I'm a late sleeper sometimes. I liked it that way. Joe always got up early to start off each day. Once it was still dark when I got out of bed. I opened my front door and Joe lay there dead. Joe looked like he had spent a whole year on the rack. His wings were flopped open. He lay on his back. His cross eyes were locked in a frozen, grim stare. His general demeanor was one of despair. I pondered this fate of my rooster named Joe. He wasn't too old, as roosters' age go. What cruel circumstance had brought Joe to this? Should he get proper burial or a necrophile kiss? I bent down to look for more clues to his state. His tongue stuck out rigidly. Was it something he ate? His stiffened legs stuck straight up in the air. All life had departed. How long would the world care? His crown had turned purple. His shimmering throat no longer would broadcast his 5 royal notes. Joe's stomach expanded and was doing so fast. His O-ring exuded an offensive gas. His toes were coiled up in fierce agony knots. Clear proof how death insults with undignified plots. Why had Joe passed on and left us this way, and why did it happen this particular day? Oh well, let him rest there for a while undisturbed. My morning newspaper was out by the curb. Back inside with coffee, I scanned as I sipped. The headlines were stressing the solar eclipse. The moon in its orbit had got in the way of dawn's first display of oncoming day. The result, of course, depended on climb. The sun had been hidden, but was there all the time. My thoughts drifted back to the carcass outside. Could astrology explain why my rooster had died? Joe's purpose in life was to summons the sun. There was no reason for living if the sun wouldn't come. I had a vague memory of dreaming that night of Joe crowing wildly with super crow might. In this dream, Joe ascended a tall telephone pole, and facing the east, he had crowed out his soul. His chest was thrust forward, and his eyes were half closed to aid concentration on 5 notes he composed. His song was the one cocks normally do. Most people have heard it. It's called doodle-doo. Should we mourn for our rooster's silly vain pride? With that very same motive, many people have died. Don't most of us posture and pose as did Joe, pretending to things that we don't really know? And the cosmic significance we give to our acts, our own self-perceptions don't correspond to the facts. Oh well, enough philosophic conceptions. The sun just emerged from the moon-shadowed deception. Out front, Joe's carcass would be starting to smell. If left out all day, he'd be perfume from hell. I picked up my shovel on the way to the rear for a suitable dig, that Joe might rest here. The shovel itself would serve for a hearse in my funeral procession before the smell got even worse. 2 scrap lumber boards and a big rusty nail, an adequate cross that would last quite a spell. Then hat off, head bowed, mind free from all mirth, hand over my heart before a mound of fresh earth. I stood like an infantry position, prayed rest. Joe may have been foolish, but he gave it his best. And if in some remote region, somewhere in the sky where brave roosters go that don't fear to die, and harps plunk with music for their ego-based song, which has only 5 notes so you can't get it wrong. And rooster crows echo from clouds here and there in glorious sunlight spreading out everywhere. Oh well, that's enough for the future of Joe, back inside with coffee in the world we all know. But the news of the day wasn't really that great. That's just one more reason I sometimes sleep late. Virtue collapsing by the speed of light squared, and riches heaped up for those morally impaired. Apocalypse preachers, no sin could be hid. If you thought it's all real, it'd blow off your lid. Sometimes it is helpful if, in your neighborhood, you are known as someone that is just misunderstood. You're basically harmless, although you're crazy. And alleged weeds in your garden only mean that you're lazy. So I felt fairly safe when it's sunset outside, imitating the voice Joe used when he died. I sounded the best imitation I know of a primordial archetype, Big Bang Rooster Crow.